Alright, so I got a couple different carburetors from Amazon. These are pretty common on like a lot of the mini bikes and stuff like this. This is the PZ20, I believe it is, and this is the PZ19. Now I've already had both of these on this bike, and I can already tell you the 19 was perfect, but my guess is that's because of what jets come in it. Now I figured I would do like a teardown of these just to show you a little bit about what's inside of them and the differences. They're very similar. They're both full slide carbs, and they're not the CV style rotary slide thing. This one, the 20 that I just had on here, I thought that this was a drain tube, because normally the line coming off the bowl is drain tube, but it's actually the little thing that sticks up to equalize pressure to like allow fuel to go out of the bowl. And when you go to take this screw loose, it just pours out of that hole there down on the bottom, so that's kind of annoying. And I just took the jet out of this, the main jet. Now this 20 right here was spitting and sputtering and kind of dying out like running lean. I looked at this jet and it's a number 70 jet, which from my understanding is way too small for this setup. Yeah, but it's a number 70, and I'm kind of curious as to what is in the PZ19, because this carb runs fantastically. This carb right here is significantly better than what came stock on it. The stock one, this slide doesn't even open halfway, so this one's giving it like twice as much airflow, and it starts up and idles better. It's got a manual choke, so I was able to take the electronic choke off of there. But I haven't had this one apart yet, so I figured I'd take it apart and see what size jet it's got and everything. But yeah, so I'll stick this back together here. I like the idea of the PZ20, but I think I'm gonna end up going back to the PZ19 unless there's a huge difference in the jets. I might be able to just swap jets between these two and have the 20 run even better, because they're not a huge difference in size, but the performance difference between this smaller one and this bigger one doesn't make sense for how well the smaller one runs. I'll mess with that one in a minute. Let's see what this one's got as far as jets. I haven't cracked this open, so it's going to take a little bit of force. So I got all the fuel out of it. The other one, I opened it up and it spilled everywhere because I didn't drain it, because I couldn't. That screw does not like me. Ooh, that was not a happy screw. But I got it. Okay. Yeah, see, this one has that same sort of setup as far as that thing there, but it's built into this tube. I don't know. Yeah. And you can tell there's a little bit of dirt that got into it, but I did ride it a whole lot yesterday. Now this one has a nice single float, very similar to what came factory on that scooter. Let me take this jet out and see what it is. This one doesn't say what it is. Isn't that nice? Alright, well, let me just compare the two. I know it's impossible for you to tell, but the hole in this one on the PZ19 is it's a much bigger jet. Not a whole lot bigger, but it's bigger. So you've got a bigger jet and a smaller carburetor. And right now I've got the carb set up for the 20, or I've got the bike set up for the 20. So I'm going to try the bigger jet and the bigger carburetor. And the bigger jet's the one that is unlabeled. That way I won't have to go through the hassle of setting the thing back up for the other carburetor, because it is a pain in the ass. I had to make some stuff because the throttle cable wasn't exactly the same. But yeah, we'll try this, see how she runs after this. It idles great. It would be a shame for it to be just a problem with the jets. It does run like it's never ran before with new carburetor. It's amazing that that's all it takes, but when your throttle only opens up halfway, you're not going to make any power. And the stock carburetor is like a 16. I really wish that this was a drain, but to drain it you got to drain it out of there. So I'm just gonna let it spill next time I take it apart. This is the number 70 jet. That was too small for the big carburetor. Okay, we'll put this back together. So PZ20 carburetor, I'm gonna hook it back up, see if it does better with the bigger jet that was in the PZ19. So what I did, spent most of yesterday making, was this intake manifold right here. The reason I had to make this was so that I could adapt a flange of that shape for the more common carburetors, because the Honda pattern wasn't exactly right. Now this is also luckily the same flange if I ever decide to go with the like Ecotron's fuel injected setup, so I should be able to bolt their 28mm directly onto this. What I did with this, I had to go get a new petcock for the fuel line. You can see it up there on the gas tank. And I ended up just drilling a hole in this, and you can't tell, but just friction fitting it in there so it's not leaking or anything. And it also puts the carburetor out in a lot better place for me to just be able to work on it. And it completely clears the springs and everything. Alright, so there it is, all hooked up. You got your choke, you just pull straight out. It's kind of cool. And little cone filter. I ran the little catch can thing back into that. And it's all bolted up sturdy. I'll also show you what I did over here. So it was loud. It was a lot louder now that the throttle's opening. So I took the old exhaust that was on it, cut it, shoved it up inside of this one, did a really shitty half-assed weld, but now it's way quieter. So let's see if it starts up and runs all right now, or at least if it starts up and runs a little bit better. It wasn't running bad before. Okay, let's see how this goes. Alright, so it definitely doesn't like that carburetor either, just because that carburetor seems to be too big. So I'm going to convert it back to the PZ19. Hopefully I'll be able to take it for a ride today and get some good video of it without getting arrested. We'll see. One thing I can say about these two carburetors is that I just randomly ordered them off Amazon after looking at some reviews and seeing that they were pretty common for some, like, I think some of the pit bikes and stuff. And I honestly did not expect the PZ20 carburetor to perform worse than the PZ19 carburetor, but I kind of thought that that might be the case when I tried it, when I tried the PZ19 first, because it seems perfect for this engine pretty much. And I'm sure with either a bigger or a smaller jet, whatever this one needs, it might perform pretty well compared to this, because this has a bigger jet with smaller carburetor size, and it's just bogging down like it's not getting enough fuel or something, because this one just opens way more, or just allows way more air. You can kind of just see, if I scroll past them, how much bigger this one is. And its choke is pretty cool. It's kind of cool design. It slides this little plate in. But if I really had to pick one to suggest, the PZ19 is a great carburetor. It works so well. The adjustment was pretty much perfect from the factory. I had to do just a little bit on that air screw. Fitment's great. The drain valve actually drains out of this tube. Nice and simple. So far this is the best thing I've done to this bike, and it has made it significantly more rideable, I guess is the right term. Obviously part of that comes from the fact that I had to make my own custom intake manifold for it. Now I'm sure if you have a TIG welder or even a MIG welder that actually has gas, unlike ours which doesn't have any fucking gas with it, you can make one of these on your own. All I used was like 1/8 inch steel plate, traced it, cut it out, drilled it. I actually drilled the holes, and I used 7/8 inch tubing, drilled a hole, then I lined up the template. And when I say template, I mean the little plastic gasket that comes, or not gasket, but it's like a plastic spacer that you can use, that comes in the kit. I lined this up, traced it, centered up my holes, drilled all 3 holes, and then I cut it out of the steel. And that made it a lot easier for me to get the holes correct so that they're not mismatched before I go cutting it out of a big sheet of steel that's easier to hold than just the little part. But anyway, I did a really horrible TIG weld, but they're sealed, they don't leak at all. Yeah, 7/8 inch tube going to the head. I used gasket maker on this side. I used a big sheet, well, a small sheet that I got from Amazon from Mr. Gasket. As you can tell, it's pretty much just paper. It's supposed to be for exhaust. I ordered it for exhaust, but I'm glad I got it when I did. So now all I really have to do is convert this thing back to that carburetor, and then hopefully I can take it for a ride today and show you guys how much better it is if I can get a good shot with the camera. That's the hard part. Hard part is getting a good shot with the camera without looking like a doofus. But let me see if I can get this to work. Here's the PZ19 hooked up. It looks very similar to the other one. It's hooked up, so I know you're tired of seeing, probably tired of seeing startup videos and revving and all that stuff, but I just want to show you the difference between this one and the other one. It's going to take a little bit of cranking. Yeah, that's definitely the right carburetor for it. She'll actually spin up now. Alright, let's see if I can take her for a ride.